You are on my channel. I'm Lisa Mitchell. I am a communications expert, certified forensic interviewer, know some stuff about body language, and my channel is all about giving you interesting things to think about. And today we kick off the series, 7 questions with interesting people, and there is no one more interesting than who I have sitting across the screen from me right now. Scott, tell these amazing people who you are and why you're interesting.
I keep telling my wife how interesting I am, and she's not buying it at all. So
She's
so this comes out, I'm getting to her. Yeah. Oh, well. Well, I'm Scott Rouse. I'm a body language expert and analyst. I train law enforcement in the military in interrogation and body language.
Yeah.
Pretty
So be
simple,
afraid,
to the point.
people. If you run into this dude on the street, good luck. Even your best poker face isn't going to fool him. So you know what's going on. All right. So the purpose of today, we're going to take a couple of minutes and help people know more about why you're interesting. Hopefully give them some things to ponder on their own, and just have another cool person with great, your channel is amazing. Plug your channel real quick, because I want people to make a note of it now.
It's the behavior panel. And it's the behavior. If you go to thebehaviorpanel.com, it just takes you to our YouTube channel. So that's it. It's 4 of us. It's Mark Bowden, Chase Hughes, and Greg Hartley, and we're just buddies. That started when the COVID thing hit. We would just get online and get on Zoom and just talk, and then I'd say, watch this video, and then Mark would say, oh, check this out, and Greg was like, here's what I'm seeing here. And I was like, why don't we just record this? Let's start doing that. And so we started doing it. And so from there we said, well, let's put it up on YouTube. So we did one on the Tiger King. And that was our first one, like in May or something. And it just sort of took off after that. I mean, we did 2 or 3, and the next thing you know, our numbers started going up. We just got 100,000, a little over 100,000 subscriptions or subscribers at this point.
You guys are blowing up, and chances are, if you guys are here because you like body language and communications and the stuff that happens on my channel, you're going to love what's going on their channel. So check it out, the Behavior Panel. Give them a follow, watch their videos. They've done some really hilarious recent ones. If you have a sense of humor and you're curious, you're in the right place. So speaking of being curious, I'm going to ask you 7 questions. We're going to figure out why you're interesting. Not that you haven't already given us enough evidence to prove that. But my first question, because I work with a lot of people that kind of struggle with this. So I'm curious to know, Scott, how do you build your confidence? What do you find if there's something that you're uncertain about, or maybe not just naturally confident walking into a room? What do you do to help build your confidence in that moment? What's something practical that people can do?
Well, in my case, I'm 57. So I've been around the block a couple of times. There's usually not much that I'll run into in the business that I'm in that I haven't run across before that's not worse than the situation I'm going into, be it a speaking gig somewhere or doing a lecture at Vanderbilt or Berkeley, wherever the lecture is, So it's those types of things. Sometimes now I could say, so for me, it's not that big a problem, but you know what I did? I got that thing, it's called Headspace. And a guy named Andy Puttycombe started it. And there's this one that says presentations, and you can do like a 3 to 5 minute thing. If there's something I'm really not sure I'm going to go into 100%, I'll listen to that, because I meditate every day, but by using that app. So so that's what I do, and it's really great, because if I've got for example, the other day I did a thing in Atlanta, and it was for a group. Let's just say it was for a group in Atlanta, and it was all women, And this is one of the, I think I've done 5 things since COVID started that were out in groups of people. And they're all spread out. It looks really weird. And I went by the day before and looked at the room because somebody else was doing their speaking part there. And I went in, they were all spread out. And it was odd. And when everybody would, they weren't even close to the stage. They were far away. So you feel like you're hollering at all these people. So it kind of wigged me out. And I had to change a bunch of stuff around in my deck because for the specifics that this group wanted. And as I went and preparing for that, I was like, geez, so I get up at 5:30 and I'm in my hotel room and I'm going over everything. And I'm like, geez, man, I got to get Andy Puttycombe on this. So that's when I whip out the old Headspace app and listen to that. It's just 3 to 5 minutes long. It really puts your head where it needs to be. It does mine anyway. So that's what I use it before I go in.
I love tools. Like anything that you can do to hack confidence, if it's not something that you're feeling just inherently. Apps are great. I use, I always have kind of a soundtrack that I use to kind of get my confidence up. And any little tool like that is amazing.
And
Okay,
it
so
was a few years ago when I saw you, I thought you lived in Nashville, and that's why I said, "Hey, man, so I'm in Nashville. I see you're in the same kind of thing I'm into. Let's go have coffee or something." Like, I live in Illinois. I'm like, "Oh, okay," or in Indiana.
yeah,
Yeah, it's Indiana.
I think I was in Nashville or close there for something, and we connected on Twitter. I think I was there.
Okay, maybe that's what it was.
Or maybe prior to an event. But I love that. Like, that's the other thing I would encourage anybody watching this to think about is, like, don't prejudge your connection potential, right? If you find somebody that's interesting, and that's what this whole series is about, is connecting with interesting people, like, hit Scott up on Twitter. Like, he's the most approachable, available guy, like, super helpful, always says yes if we can make it work. Just don't be afraid if you see somebody that you think is interesting to just build that connection. You never know, like, how many years have we been talking now, and I suckered you into another project here. So
no, but that's the thing. There's not a whole lot between. I mean, there's not a whole lot of people like us. We're not a lot.
Right.
There's a lot of people that are just body language experts because they Google other stuff, but they're not. They don't. The people they talk to a lot of times, their lives don't depend on it and that kind of thing. So they may not take it as seriously as and there's maybe 15 of us, 10, 15 altogether that are real ones. So it's really tough to. Yeah, it's tough to find the people that that are into the same kind of stuff you're into, So that's why I was like, oh, she's into it. So that's why I was like, yeah, hey, so what's going on with you? What do you know? Who do you know around here? Like, because there's nobody here. And that's why Greg lives in Georgia. Right. Mark lives in Toronto, Chase lives in Virginia. So it's like, that's why we're so tight, because there aren't a lot of us, So
yeah,
who do you talk to?
The island is small, but it's a lot of fun to be here. So I'm glad I haven't been voted off just yet. So
yeah. Oh no, you're one of the mainstays. You're good.
Good. I'm going to do my best to stay there.
Yeah.
Let's talk about success. So we talked about confidence. What is your definition of success now? Like, snapshot it today, and has it changed from maybe how you would have described it even 5 years ago?
Success for me is being happy with what you're doing. My father always told me to get this story about my Aunt Mildred, who was the president of a bank in this little town called La Follette, Tennessee. And he always used her as the example of, and he's a doctor, and he used her as the example of perfect success, because she was doing something she loved, and she wasn't making all the money in the world, but she was making enough to have what that make her family comfortable and stuff. So it wasn't all about money, although she was in the money business, president of the bank, and her happiness, her family, everything that was connected with that. That's what he taught us growing up. My family, my brother and sister, growing up, and my mom taught us the same thing. Was it's not just about money isn't success. It's everything else is success, because at the end of this, we're here for a small amount of time. At the end of this thing, all you really got is your relationships. It's all you have. Is who is in your family and your close friends. And when you get to be 57, there aren't a whole lot of close friends, when you get that way, because you just don't care anymore. It's not, all the fluff and is gone, so it's one of those things where you just, that's the most important thing. I think success for me is being able to do what I want to do, and enjoying doing it, and not having to worry constantly about where paying bills, or if you want something new and nice, you can go get it if you wanted to. Make sure your wife has things that she wants, right. Those types of things. That's for me is success. So anything on top of that is awesome for me.
I love it. I think we overcomplicate the idea of success, or the picture in the head that we have of success. And that's due to clever marketing, right? Like, we've been sold a lot of definitions of success. So to hear that it really is relationship based and joy filled, that checks the box for you. I love to hear that. I hope people really think about what actually makes them successful, right? Because we make it way harder than I think it needs to be. So speaking of things we've been sold, and knowing how you love to find the lies, right? That's your specialty. A little bit different application than most people watching here would. But what do you think is the biggest scam or lie that we are being sold as a society right now?
That everything's okay. That everything's going to be okay, and it may be, but every time you may hear on TV, hey, things are rough right now. It's going to get better. That's what you tell someone when they're when they're in the ditch. Saying, "Hey, look, man, it's not as bad as it looks." And even at that point, it may not go. It may still go sideways on that person or that situation. So, with the situation going on in the United States right now, it's kind of scary. When you look at it and hear people saying, "Oh, there might be a civil war," and all this is this and this is that. So I think but I'm nobody to my comments on that would mean absolutely nothing, because I'm not way into politics. We always on our show we go right down the middle. None of us really give a hoot about politics because we're busy doing other things. But it's one of those things where my opinion on that, it really wouldn't be worth anything. I mean, I just talk to mean people and tell them what they've done, or that type of thing. Have this course, bodylangwagetactics.com. That's it. I have no depth of knowledge about what we might be being lied about, but it looks like we keep being told, hey, but everything's gonna be just fine. This whole COVID thing's going away. I hope it does. I really do hope it goes away. But who knows? How long it's going to be around. So maybe it's that. From my uneducated point of view of what's going on in the world, I think that would be it. I'm kind of worried about how long this is going to last.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think that there's a line between being objective and being pragmatic, right? And being perceived as pessimistic or negative or overly optimistic, right? It's such a sliding scale, I think, based on the individual experience that you're having walking into this time in this space, right? And somebody watching this may have a totally different experience and not relate. But I think it's interesting just to consider what other people feel maybe is off base, or maybe isn't as truthfully presented as it can be. So we can at least pause for a moment and check in with ourselves to say, how does that feel to me? Maybe I'd never really thought about why that would be a bad thing to not, to just buy into that storyline right now and not think a little more objectively through it. So thank you for sharing that. I love that you brought that up. Shifting gears, what is something that has happened to you, or you've experienced, or you've thought about recently that has brought you joy?
Let's see.
Real joy. Because I don't think we spend a lot of time there.
I do. There are so many things I've got. I've got little dogs that do. I mean, it's the simple things for me, because when you get in the world, there's so many complicated things going on. So I sort of shut all that out. But it's like my wife, my dog, my family, my parents, my brother and sister, family stuff, really, when being around my family, because especially the way it is now, my parents are a little older, so we got to be real careful around them. So I think when my whole family's together, I think that's when it's the best for me. That's when I feel the happiest, and I still get to my friends on Zoom or something, So that's, for me, that's the bottom line, is being around my family. So.
I love it. It's always fun when you say the word joy to people, the first thing they look is confused, and then they recall that feeling, and then everything changes. I love that. That's such an underused word. I feel like we have a hard time claiming the word joy. I shouldn't be joyful. It's heck yeah, we should all be. That should be default state, I think. And we just kind of feel weird saying that we have joy.
I agree.
I always like to see what people look like when they're talking about that word.
It's not a very, coming from a man's point of view, it's not a very, manly thing to say. Fellas, I'm really having some, I'm having some joy right now over some situations. I'd like to share them with you. Guys don't do that, as you know. So it's tough when you're asking guys that. What brings you joy? It's
right, but joy is a gender neutral word, right? It's just an experience. It's not and that's the other thing, I think, too, looking at our language, and you spend so much of your time paying attention to words and how they're used and where they're placed in relationship to other things, because they, just let's sidebar on that real quick. Why are words so important? And as far as the word selected and where it's placed, what does that tell you in your profession as somebody who's looking for the truth in very high consequence situations?
It tells me everything, because the way someone's sentence structure, their vernacular, their delivery, all those things tell you something. For example, and I'm going to tell you, I'm not giving you the example, but if there's somebody watching, they go, well, that makes sense to me, because this too. I've heard you talk about when people speak, when you're talking to someone, they're going to use, even though we all communicate uniquely, there are going to be three different categories there, what they're talking about, and their vernacular and their word choice, in other words, and their style is going to fall under. That's going to be the first one's going to be visual, where they'll say things like this. Oh, that's beautiful. They have, they'll talk in vision terms. It's the most beautiful place I've ever been. I see what you're saying. Look, here's what's going on now. And that looks right to me. Those kind of things. I see what you're saying. That looks like the thing we should do. Then you have the auditory person who's going to be dealing with sound. I'm more of an auditory from having been in the music business for so long. So it's my, you'll hear people say, well, it sounds great to me. Her personality is a little loud, but I think as we go along, she'll quiet down a bit. Those types of things. And they'll use words that deal with sound. You have the visual, the sound stuff. And then you have the kinesthetic, which is the feeling people. It just doesn't feel right. I don't know what it is about that. It's a little rough right now, but I think it'll smooth out as it goes along. That's just not something I want to. So those types of things. So I start listening to what kind of person they are. Then I start talking like them. And then I start getting in. Then I can get a better headspace for where they're coming for the types of words they're using. There's a thing that I coined called loping. And if I ask someone a question about where they've been, how did it go, and those types of things in a situation where I'm trying to find out if they've done something they shouldn't have done. And loping is where they just tell the story and they just lope along just like they're on a horse. And they're going. But as they talk to you, if the words change and the words start getting bigger and they stop, you may use a word. They stop contracting. They won't say, I did not do that. I went to the whatever. They'll say, I didn't do that. I did this. But if everything starts getting perfect, then that means they're thinking about something. It doesn't mean they're lying or telling the truth. It just says things are changing. And as Joe Navarro says, what we're looking for are the differences in comfort and discomfort. What are you seeing as that person, as you speak with them? Are they uncomfortable or are they comfortable and they're going the other way? Are they going, if they're comfortable, are they getting uncomfortable, or are they uncomfortable and they're getting comfortable? So once that starts changing, I start listening for those words and how they arrange them, where they put their verbs, where they put their adjectives, and do they add qualifiers to the end of what they're saying? And how do they do that? How excited are they? Are they much louder when they're talking about that, or they get much quieter when they're talking about that? Not telling you this, obviously, but anybody who might be interested.
This is great for everybody watching this, right? Like this is, and I hope you guys are really kind of soaking in, like pause it and go back and watch this again and listen to this again, because what Scott is giving you right now is just an absolute miniature masterclass on understanding how to utilize what people are telling you, not just words and content, but more delivery and word choice and word placement and this is so key. And this is whether you're dealing with your teenage, whether you're a teenager dealing with adults or whether you're an adult dealing with a teenager or whatever your purpose is and relation is. This is key information to really decoding what people mean and to just having the awareness. If somebody starts one way and then changes throughout the course of that interaction, there's a reason. It's not accidental. And that is such a great little teaser. We need to do just a whole episode on that, which look for the invite for that soon.
Okay. I'm in. I'll do whatever you ask me to do. I'll do it.
But we're just going to tease them with it right now because I have a couple of more questions I want to get through to get to our 7 today. What's one thing, just everyday practical stuff that if you think everybody could get on board with either doing it or if everybody quit doing it, could improve our experience as a collective existence here?
This sounds
this is our existential part of the questioning.
This sounds so horrible, and it sounds like a parent. But reading, I know it sounds horrible, but you can learn so much from reading something. From reading, like we read, all of our stuff are body language books, human behavior books, and research and all that. Those are the kind of things I like. I always think if people just read more about the things they're interested in, boy, their conversations would be so much more exciting and have so much more depth to them. I love talking to somebody who knows something I don't, which is most everybody, but they're really deep into something. And I can keep asking questions. So I think everybody would, that's so cornball to say, but I think if you read more, the world would be a nicer and better place if you start reading and saying, are you kidding me? But I don't sit around and read like novels and things. So my stuff's all research, but I think if people read more, you could get more, you'd learn more from each other, and that makes you bond. And that's what I think anyway.
I agree. I like it. And the good news is there's no bad answer here, right? It's just, I'm curious as you're experiencing the world in your lens and what you're walking into every day. I agree. Like, I think if everyone was working from, but not even a more educated point of view, but just a more expansive point of view, right? All that conflict, misunderstanding, and nonsense really can be diminished. So I'm voting for the read more solution.
That's a good answer.
I'm on board with that. Okay. And so this is going to be kind of again, there's no right answer here. I'm just really curious as we all change. I mean, God, I look at myself 10 years ago or 20 years ago and think about the ways and the reasons I've evolved, right? So what is one way, kind of looking back historically on who you were then, whenever then was, whatever milestone that is for you, and now, what's one way that you feel like you've evolved? What's different about today's Scott than it would have been?
Oh, like we're talking 10 years. I'm 57, so it's like 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40.
Choose your own adventure, my friend. You decide where you want to milestone it.
Okay. I think, you remember when you first started learning about psychopaths and everybody you knew for about 2 years were psychopaths? When I was 21, everybody from 21 to like 23 was a psychopath. I didn't care. You know, I could say, because I was still in that mode of where I would see specific things that would fall into which hadn't been invented yet, or hadn't been come up with, the psychopath test by Robert Hare. And I would see people and say, that guy, and I'd think about somebody in the 8th grade, that guy sat behind me in English. He must have been a psychopath the way he was acting. So being able to take the information you get and saying, hey, here's some information, just look at it for a while, until you learn more about it. Learning more about the world and life, I think, helps these things you think are facts and are true. It lets you get, and staying open to that really, really changes the game for you. And I think that's what changed the game for me. When I work with people or I talk to people who are younger than me, like Chase Hughes, for example, on the behavior panel.
Yeah.
He's the youngest one of all of us. And as we talk to him, and I was the same way. And Greg's been around the block about 14 times. He was an Army interrogator, taught interrogation resistance, the whole thing. He's the alpha of our group, and he's like if anything were to happen, that's the guy we'd send to take care of it. If the Martians came and said, look, man, we need to interrogate.
That's saying a lot, because you got a pretty stacked deck there on the behavior panel.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but if they say, no, we need an interrogator, we go, the Martian said, there was Greg Hartley, here's his email, here's your column, I'll get a hold of him, I'll make the connection. And so as we go through these things, like I was always a person who wasn't into the eye movement thing, because the research I'd read on it, and this is another example where I'm saying, yeah, when I was young, I used to be like this, and I'm not anymore. Well, here's the way I haven't gotten past that. For years, I was into the thing where it didn't mean anything where you're looking. I knew it meant something, because you had to, as you look away, if I kept looking at you, if you asked me a question and I kept looking at you, we know that means the person's probably not being honest. But at the same time, and I hate to go back to psychopaths, but it's my favorite subject, is if I keep looking at you, if you and I were sitting here together and I kept looking at you, then you asked me something and I just kept looking at you and didn't blink a whole lot, you'd be very uncomfortable, because the psychopath has no problem doing that, because they don't feel empathy. They don't know it's a weird feeling. So the same thing with eye movement. You don't, I wasn't under the impression that it meant anything because of the studies I'd read. And Greg kept saying, let me tell you something. Here's what I did. When he would train interrogators at the Sears School, and when he was doing interrogation training, when he would do that, he would give them a story that they were going to give him. One group would say, here's the story you're going to tell when you get there, because you're supposed to be hiding this, this, or this. So he knew the story they were going to tell. And as he knew the story they were going to tell, they would all look in the same place when they were thinking about specific things. Not like, and it's not the same for everybody. You look down to the left and that means they're lying. That's not true at all. That's not what I'm saying. Up and to the right, it means you're telling the truth. No. Different people do look different places for different things. You have to find out what their baseline is on that. Most people look down to the right when you talk about emotions. Most people, not all of them.
Right.
You got that whole NLP thing that says
that's
this means
neuro-linguistic programming at its finest. Yeah.
Yeah. So you really have to and Greg explained, I said, dude, that NLP thing, he said, I know, but he said, I think they were he said, they were on to something, but quit the studies. They didn't do any studies on them. They just did that, the group of people. So that made sense to me. And I was like, okay. So so every time we'd talk about that, we'd get in this little head button thing about, because, we'd hang out and we hung out all the time. And he was like, well, let me show you what I'm talking about. So we go out as we were doing this course. He said, let me show you what I'm talking about. So we went out in the hallway of this place, and he asked somebody a few questions, and they would do the same things with their eyes. He goes, she's going to do this, and then she's going to do this. And I'm like, no, it's like, okay, great. So we go to Waffle House. We have breakfast before we meet. He'd do the same thing every time. And he was right about that. So Chase comes along, and he's a big research guy as well. And he goes deep. I go deep into that stuff. Greg he likes the research and stuff, but he doesn't, and Mark is one of those guys that they go by what they've learned, by what they've seen. And they do read and they do research, but they don't go deep in there like Chase and I do. So finally, Chase said, all right. He was on the same page I was. But then finally, even he was like, yeah, okay, there's something here. And now we refer to these things. We're not as adept and don't know as in depth as Greg does. It doesn't come to us naturally because I've always been so against it. And I still keep an eye on it because I'm thinking, automatically my brain goes, no, this isn't.
Right.
This isn't
you're a researcher, right? You're
right.
always experimenting and proving your theory.
Right. But we're putting together, Greg and I, a study on that actually. And we started in Louisville, at the University of Louisville. And we were in the process of getting the studies going where you get an fMRI machine and we'd have people come in, but then COVID hit, so we had to stop all that. We're starting it again. As soon as this lets up, we'll be doing it again, but I think it may be at a different place this time, somewhere a little closer. So, but anyway, so that's it. I opened my head up about that. Having said, you got to open your head up. I hadn't opened it up, but that is an example that took too long to tell. Geez, sorry, man.
No, it didn't. I love the context. I'm excited about the study, so keep me posted on that because that lights my dorky little brain up to know that there's more good research coming. And B, I think that the lesson for anybody watching this is evolution comes from more information and experience. Right? Like if you are the same person you were 10 years ago, you probably need to challenge yourself to consider more points of view and more information and read more to your earlier point of what would solve problems. Right. So I love that that's evolution. That's how it's happened. And my last question is, if you were to meet somebody just briefly, a brief exchange, a brief moment in each other's orbit, and they walked away and somebody asked them what they thought about you, what 3 words would you hope that person would use to describe you?
That guy's funny. Or he's so funny. That's not that I want to be a funny person, but that's what I'd want to lead with because I know that fires off oxytocin and serotonin, makes you bond with them. So I'd want them to think, gosh. So next time they see me, they go, let's go hang around with that guy. Let's talk to that guy. He's funny. So that's what I want them to say. That guy's funny.
I love it. And I think you do that and you do it well. Like you're smart as shit. No debate about that. You know so much about so much. You can take down people with them not even knowing it's happening. And yet you choose to I think the thing I appreciate about you and your approach, just knowing you in the way that I do, is that you are very thoughtful about the experience that you create for the person on the other side of you, whether that's on a screen or whether that's a known audience or an unknown audience. And I know you're just as intentional about that from a tactical standpoint with the people that you're interviewing and looking for truth from. But most people don't take the time to pause to think about the experience that they want to create and to be intentional about that. And that's an area of giftedness for you. And I know part of it is technique and part of it I think is just giftedness. And that's part, just to acknowledge that, that's part of you that I really appreciate, is that you're always thoughtful, whether it's intentional or unintentional, about the experience that you're creating for me. And that's why I always hit you up for stuff, because I'm like, that guy's funny and he's smart and I like hanging out with him. So thank you for creating that experience. Where can people go? I mean, you do so many things. You have so many, just the knowledge you dropped in this small interview alone is worth its weight in gold. But where can people go to learn more about you, see your work, get clued into what you're working on?
I could say go to scottrouse.com, but that's not as much fun as going to the behaviorpanel.com. I think you'll like whoever's watching this, that person would actually learn something there. You'd learn something on my blog, at scottrouse.com, but the behaviorpanel.com, that's the one that's where it's really funny. But if you want to learn something, you're into learning things, and you want to learn more about body language, that's why we made Body Language Tactics. And it's a micro course, so it's really simple. We give really, like I did here, we give really short bursts of information that you can take in. It sticks a lot better. And you can go through it as fast or as slow as you want to go. And we have, it's done. We've been up to since 2017. It's done really well. That's, from what I understand, we're the #1 online body language course.
Yeah, so. as well you should be. It's an awesome course. It's a worthwhile venture. Check out scottrouse.com. Like, subscribe, follow the behavior panel on YouTube or wherever you like to watch your videos. Like and subscribe here to my channel. Because I'm going to keep bringing you more interesting people like Scott. But Scott, thanks so much for dropping some knowledge on us today.
Thanks for having me. I've been looking so forward to do this because we've never done one of these before. We always talk and stuff, but we never done anything professionally before.
That's a fail on our part. We'll do better because now we have even more stuff to talk about. But
excellent.
All right, we're going to wrap it up. Thanks for being interesting. I appreciate you sharing your experience here with the rest of us today.
Well, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it. Let me know and I'll come back anytime.
Yes.